Hi, guys. Welcome to Alive, my search for the best ways to live. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of medical consultation with the co founders of a medical platform called CloudMD and CloudPX. We have their CEO and President, John J. Yuvallos, together with the COO, Rich Arnold Tuadles. Hi, guys.
Hi, Jiggy. Thanks for having us this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, guys. I mean, you guys have a lot of things to do. I can imagine this is such an exciting field, And first and foremost, tell us about what Synapse is, and what these two web-based platforms, CloudMD and CloudPX, is all about. Maybe we could start with CloudMD and then CloudPX. What is this all about?
Yeah, so I guess I could start, Rich. So
yeah, sure.
Synapse is a company that both Rich and I founded last 2014. So it's a software development firm, where it primarily focuses on the health information technology sector. So we develop our own products and we market our own brand. So our first movie, called CloudMD, was launched last 2015. So it's basically an electronic medical record system designed to aid the doctors and their secretaries for their clinic operations. So our goal was to aid them to go digital or paperless. But over the years, it evolved from an EMR to a complete and fully integrated practice management system wherein we can also aid the doctors in documenting their rounds, admissions, surgeries, financials, and inventory, to name a few.
That's for CloudMD, right?
Yes.
And how about CloudPX?
Yeah, so CloudPX, interestingly enough, was launched just, I think, a month plus ago. So it was in response to our company's corporate social responsibility to aid in the crisis. So what we did was last April 17, apart from CloudMD being a complete practice management software as it is, we decided to fast track the development of our telemedicine or telehealth module, wherein doctors are able to see their patients online. And with that came CloudPX. So it's the patient portal counterpart to CloudMD, wherein patients can register for a free account and from there look at a list of our doctors on our Find a Doctor page. And from there, they can easily request for an online consultation with our CloudMD doctor.
I'm curious, how did you guys end up running an online medical platform? What is your background? What brought you to these digital places?
Yeah, I think Rich.
Rich, go ahead.
Yeah.
I think I'll take this. So John J and I were basically friends since high school. And after we graduated high school, we also were batchmates in when we took up nursing. That was around 2003, and we graduated 2007. We took the boards, we passed the boards. We never really practiced nursing, particularly because although we were passionate about to some degree the medical the medical field, we also felt we were a lot equally as interested in the tech field as well. So John J went on to pursue a career as a medical representative for one of the bigger pharmaceutical companies. Well, I wanted to also learn how we could basically marry tech and medicine at the same time. So I was basically in a company that was doing exactly what we are doing right now, although legislation in the United States was already very developed for these kinds of things. So as I was working in that particular environment, I felt that, you know, this is something that we could bring to the Philippines. Basically, I saw the benefits at that time, although there were a lot of nuisances that came with it. Um, there was really something good that came out of it. So I just wanted to bring it into the Philippines. You know, I talked to John Jay about you know, the possibility of actually bringing it over here. And you know, that was, and everything else was history. You know, that's how Synapse started. Although Synapse, there's still a lot of products. One of the main products that we actually offer to the general public is CloudMD for the doctors, and also CloudPX for the patient. So basically that would be the background as to, you know, how it came to be.
So that's how did I say club? CloudMD and CloudPX was born out of your backgrounds, you guys being nursing graduates as well. And what was the light bulb moment? When did you think that this was something that the Philippines could use? When was that? Was
Well,
there
there's
like
really,
was there like a light
that's a
bulb
very
moment?
good question, because a lot of these things, you know, I was really contemplating whether I needed to leave the company, you know, and risk everything to build a company. And I didn't really have cash at that time. Basically, I was living from paycheck to paycheck. But I really felt this was something that we could, you know, we could start and, you know, have this flourish in the long run. Um, and when I spoke to John Jay about it, was it a good idea to actually bring it over? And, you know, because we were best friends, he was the only person I would really bring this over to. So we decided it was something, you know, it was worth a shot. CloudMD basically came first. CloudMD, we launched at around late 2015. And CloudPX, as John Jay mentioned, we launched only maybe almost 2 months ago. And you know, everything's really taking off at this point.
Let's talk
But
about
the
cloud.
aha moment there was that there was basically a point wherein I was supporting some of these healthcare professionals in the States, but you know, I felt I could have done better. And the development side was the bottleneck, basically. So although I wanted to make things work out for these customers we had, the missing piece there was the development piece. You know, I didn't really have the final say, whether these features or whatever you guys wanted you'd actually see in the software moving forward. And so that was, you know, the main, that was the tipping point for me, where I decided I needed, you know, to go on a deeper level with this.
Let's talk about CloudMD for a minute. CloudMD is a platform that helps doctors, professionals, right, organize their operations. Does it replace the doctor secretary, or does it complement the secretary? Is there anybody losing a job here in CloudMD?
That's a great question. So the short answer is, of course not. It basically aids the secretaries, and apart from our doctor users, we also consider their secretaries as part of our family and our clients as well. So we included in our protocols is that we support the doctor and their secretaries, and we get feedback from them. So uh, looking back, when we first launched CloudMD, it was actually Rich and I who did clinic-to-clinic visits, educating the doctors about CloudMD, about EMRs, and more often than not, we first get to meet and the doctor secretary. So what happened was
The
the
gatekeepers,
secretary
right?
acted as the doctor's gatekeeper. Yeah. So we had to share with them that how CloudMD can really help streamline their work and support, and how it can help them better support their doctors. So yes, we built CloudMD with the secretaries in mind, and the feedback of the secretaries are equally as important as the feedback from our doctors.
You know, since I was little until now, I still see clinics with wooden drawers and their index cards until now in
Right.
2020, right? Did you have
Exactly.
did you have to digitize all of those records, or did you start from scratch and just record anything that's new, but just did not have to digitize all of those? What was the process like for the doctors?
Yes, so there's a lot of options on how to transfer their data, especially if it's paper data. So what you just described, Jiggy, is basically what we call as dynamic migration. Because if a doctor has been practicing for like 8 to 10 years, there's a whole stockpile of paper lying around, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
uh, so what we suggested was to do dynamic migration. So what that entails is that if a patient comes back for a checkup or if a new patient comes in for a new consult, that's when they start to input the data into CloudMD. So it's going to be a dynamic thing. It's a perpetual thing because from our survey and from our data, not all the patients will come back. So it would really take a lot of time on the doctor's end or on the secretary's end to keep on including all of that data, which spends a lot of years. So that was the most popular choice, but it also is quite good to know that some of the doctors, although they don't have a system, they started to digitalize their data using Excel and other commercially free platforms. So in that aspect, it made our jobs easier because we can just easily import the data from the Excel file or from the Word file or from any soft copy into CloudMD. So those were basically the two ways on how we transfer their data over to our system.
So is this like a subscription-based service, or how does this work for the doctors? How do I buy into the platform?
Yeah, so when we launched CloudMD, yes, it was a monthly subscription service. It actually continued to be like that until recently. So yeah, also as a part of our initiative to help combat the crisis, last March of this year, we officially announced to all of our subscribers and to new users that CloudMD will be free in its entirety, all of its premium features, everything, until the crisis is over. So when we say that the crisis is over, we intentionally said that because we want it to be broad. So right now, we want to be transitioning, we are transitioning from a subscription-based model to a free model. We're just working out the kinks. We're just working out all the opportunities that that think of and come up with to make CloudMD sustainable in the long term. So yeah, our personal advocacy is, especially with the epidemic, is that we want to, of course, help the patients, and also we want to help augment the livelihood of the doctors as well, because their livelihood has been severely affected also by what has happened.
Um, Obviously, this is an app. This is an app, a platform, a web-based platform that makes doctors' lives easier, right? It organizes their patient list and perhaps do a little bit of accounting and all that stuff, right?
Yes, that's right.
Um,
Right.
if is this app, which is making the doctors' lives that more convenient, is the effect of that palpable when you go to a clinic now? At least to those that are subscribed to the software, to the platform. Can you feel? Can you see the doctors using this particular platform, CloudMD? If I go to a clinic now that uses CloudMD.
Right. Jiggy, the first thing you'll see when you come into a clinic of a doctor who has been using CloudMD is you start seeing that they have more space in their clinics for a waiting area because the file cabinets have been
gone.
removed from the clinics. And basically, record retrieval is very quick as opposed to, having to look at paper records and and more often than not having to misplace them and start over, right? So there is a learning curve though, and I will admit that because of the robust features of CloudMD that it has accumulated over 4 to 5 years, there are not only the clinical aspect of the system that we're assisting doctors with, but also it's full circle now. We're also assisting them in their finances and their accounting. So it's really a full circle from the moment the patient steps into the clinic, from the time the patient gets their prescriptions. Everything is being taken care of by CloudMD up until the bills get settled. So everything is being managed by the system. Whether you're a patient, then you use CloudPX for that, and if you're a doctor, you use CloudMD for that.
But there has to be somebody who will encode the information, right? And I guess that's the job of either the secretary or the doctor. Yeah.
Yeah. So either can do that, but I would say around 90% of the time it's the secretaries that do that. Going back to one of your questions earlier, we're basically not eliminating the secretary portion of the clinic. We're actually giving them more responsibility and being able to participate in the digitalization of the records itself. So yes, there is a time when you have to transfer all the data. As John Jay mentioned earlier, some doctors have started to digitize in some form in the way of Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel. We assist them to get all that data migrated automatically into the system. So when they start, all the records are already present in the system. But as far as like manual writing of index cards, that's probably something that we can definitely suggest dynamic migration, as John Jay mentioned earlier.
So does the system or does the doctor ask permission from the patient when he encodes his information in the system, or he just does it anyway? I mean, like, what's the process like before he encodes? Does he say, "Hey, I'm going to record this in CloudMD"? Is that okay?
As per the Data Privacy Act that we have in the Philippines, they are required to give some form of
consent, right?
Notification that some form of notification that at least informs the patient that I need your consent to collect records digitally, and that's one of the things that we do in the system as well.
So is there like resistance to this? I mean, do patients and doctors feel comfortable with inputting their much needed information in the system? Aren't they scared that it might fall in the wrong hands? Aren't they scared that you might, I don't know, what the possibilities are?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question because we are storing and processing medical information. There is a patient to doctor confidentiality in there, right? So we're making sure that all the technical safeguards are being addressed in the way of how we're making our infrastructure secure, in the way of how we're actually issuing user accounts, in the way of our role-based access. So a lot of the layers of security are placed into the hands of the administrator or the users themselves, plus on the server backend. So that's where a lot of the security features are being managed, right?
So the consent of the patient will have to be that they have to sign up to the fact that you're going to input their data in the system, right? So that's crucial.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chiggy. Sorry.
So one of the things that really infuriate me when I go to a clinic is the amount of time that I need to wait for my turn, right? It's infuriating. And, I have senior citizen parents, so they really can't stay in the clinic that long. So, and one of the things that a doctor does is he chit-chats with with a patient, right? And sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes it takes like an hour for one patient. So does that is that part of the feature of this platform? Does it warn doctors that, hey, you've been chatting with your patient too much? Is that part of the help that you give to not only to the doctor but perhaps the patients as well?
Yeah, so that's the best part about having a CloudPX account, because CloudPX uh, gives information to the patients about their queue number and which patient the doctor, or which queue number the doctor is currently serving real time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, especially with the new normal, wherein clinic protocols are getting very strict, hospital protocols are stricter. They really want to maintain social distancing, where we know for a fact that most hospitals want to limit the number of people inside at any given time. So yeah, uh, with CloudPX, aside from requesting consults with your doctors, they are also able to request clinic visits and vice versa. So the doctors can also set appointments, because, like the Philippines, appointment-based schedules are not so commonly practiced, right? It's just you walk in, you check if the doctor is there, you ask the secretary, and hey, when will the doctor be back? Okay, I'll come back. But right now, because of the new normal, protocols are more strict. So CloudMD and CloudPX allows for that to happen. And all appointments are scheduled. And what the doctors are saying right now is that the telemedicine aspect can be used in two very important key areas. So first is to pre-screen the patients before allowing them or scheduling them for a clinic visit. And the other reason would be as a follow-up. So, for example, after our face-to-face, I need to, you need to schedule me for a follow-up. If the follow-up does not require face-to-face interaction or physical interaction, then we could schedule my follow-up through CloudPX and CloudMD through online consultation. So yes, that is the best part about CloudMD and CloudPX in the new normal.
One of the things that also infuriate me is the fact that the doctor's schedule is so unpredictable. Sometimes, there's an emergency and he needs to go somewhere, or he's stuck somewhere, and patients are waiting for hours on end because the doctor hasn't shown up yet in his scheduled time. So you have an appointment at, let's say, at 2 p.m. and he's not there yet because of emergency or anything like that. Does this fix something like that, like an emergency? Does the system
Yes,
get notified immediately so that people won't have to queue up because the doctor is stuck somewhere?
yes, Jiggy. You're just that's how we feel exactly as patients. Although we really understand that uh, the doctor's job is to, of course, tend to the most immediate care, to the people who need the most immediate care, right? So the good thing about CloudMD and CloudPX is that uh, the system notifies you for whatever reason your appointment has been rescheduled, canceled, or for whatever reason that maybe the doctor is running late. So yeah, all of those reasons that cause us patients to wait for a long time, the doctor or the secretary now has the tool to easily inform us. And even before that, just by the queuing system alone, the patient now knows which queue number he or she is, and for whatever reason the doctor needs to cancel the appointment or to reschedule the appointment, the system notifies them in three ways. First is through text or SMS. The second one is through email, and the third one is inside their app. There's an inbox where there are auto-generated messages. Some works like a push notification. So yes, that's one of our main focus, is to make sure that the interaction and the communication between the doctor, the secretary, their clinic, and the patient is seamless and close to real time.
So the doctor has to input in his phone, perhaps, or in his computer, that he's going to be running late because he's stuck in a hospital somewhere. So immediately, automatically, does the system sort of adjust the queuing, meaning to say that to those that were supposed to be consulted at 3 p.m., you know, depending on the amount of time the doctor needs to get here, you'll need to be moved like 2 hours after. The system does that, right? And it informs the patient, but the patient has to sign up for CloudPX, right? He has to be part of that as well.
Yes and no. So one of the things that we wanted to really develop was the flexibility of the system, wherein even though you were scheduled at this time, we all know for a fact that when you say 2 p.m., there's a lot of reasons why that 2 p.m. can be earlier or later. Right?
Mostly later.
Yeah. So
Right.
we provide the secretary or the doctor that will interact directly with the patient. Like we have a chat box there where they can easily inform the patient that the doctor is running late. Also, we have auto-generated messages where, for example, if the doctor is in the clinic, I am patient number 8, and the doctor starts patient number 1, it will automatically text, email, and notify the patient that, hey, the doctor is in. He or she is already seeing patient number 1, so please be ready. Or if it's almost the patient's turn, hey, it's almost your turn. Please be within 6 minutes from the clinic. Or if it's an e-consult, hey, the doctor is already waiting for you in the virtual clinic. Please come inside. So it's a mix of both the human enabled communication inside CloudMD by way of messaging, and the auto-generated messages, which for us, based on feedback from our patients and doctors, really help smooth things between the doctors and the patient, meeting at the right time. Hello.
So more or less, the patient is aware how many minutes he needs to wait, more or less. Does your system, CloudMD and CloudPX, crunch data? Does it have AI? Does it interpret the data, and that the older or the more they use the system, the smarter it gets? Does it have something like that?
So that's definitely a part of our roadmap, but currently that feature is not yet available. So what we do in how we want to improve the wait times between the patient and the doctor is that the patient is informed which queue number the doctor is currently seeing, and from there are auto-generated messages or manually sent messages in between to inform the patient to make sure that the patient the doctor meets at the right time, or if not, the patient knows right away that it's his or her turn to see the doctor, whether in clinic or whether through the virtual room.
Does the system allow for advanced information? Meaning to say that, for example, a patient A, would like to have my eyes checked. It was itchy. I mean, like when the doctor sees you, does he already know practically everything that needs to be known based on the information that he or she gives, the patient gives the doctor?
Yes, that is correct. So when patients on CloudPX schedule for an appointment request, they get directed to the booking request form, wherein the basic information that the doctor needs to know, like what's the chief complaint, when did it start, the allergies that you have, what medications are you currently taking,
So
any lab results.
So you input the information. What if the consultation is so simple? Let's just say I can't figure out, doc, which eye drop to use, the red one or the blue one, because some people really go to doctors even though it's a really small, perhaps minor problem, right? What if it's something that can be solved by a yes or a no? Does that mean that you can just say yes, use the red one, and the patient is actually already served, and can move to the next? Is there a
Yes,
does that
that's true.
happen?
So, yes, so aside from the patients being able to book an appointment with the doctor, and if the doctor accepts that request, even before the virtual consult, whether they do the virtual consult through video, audio, and chat, they can do a pre-consult communication through chat. So the doctor and the patient can chat together before the actual consultation. It's also a tool that we allow them to do for exactly that.
I think Arnold has a better signal than John, right? Arnold. I think
Oh,
Yeah, probably so, because he's inside the room and probably takes probably the glass or the woodwork
yeah.
is getting in the way of the signal.
Anyway, e-consult, a virtual consultation. You know what? One of the things that I look for in a doctor is, you know, you feel at home with a doctor. You, you know, the way they interact with you, the tone of their voice. You know, the calming, reassuring doctor who tells you everything's going to be fine. I'm going to stick a needle up your ass, but just calm down. You know, when you virtually consult a doctor, explain to us the experience. How does it work?
Well, for starters, the e-consults basically is not in any shape or form a direct replacement to physical consults. We understand, and doctors would would really prefer in a heartbeat if they were able to do so with the conditions given, um, be able to see the patient face to face, right? But because of the current situation we're in, we're trying to minimize contact. Um, then they're at least we're able to give them an alternative to that. So of course, well, what doctors can still retain is their therapeutic communication, you know, and just being able to what they usually call it is bedside manner. If you're right beside the patient, attending to them in the wards, as Jay would call it, would be website manner as of this point, because now we're addressing patients digitally in a digital room. So basically, you can still continue to converse. Um, all your communications or correspondence are being uh, I would say they are basically encrypted. So there's a safety aspect there, but it would take a lot longer than a face-to-face consult. You know, if you were to probably answer a patient yes or no, then you know that would really be the same thing as texting them yes or no. But if I were to show you my lab results, my diagnostic results, how would I be able to send you a copy of my X-ray plate? How are you able to identify findings in my X-rays or any other digital um, results, right? So it will take some time, as instead of having to hand out that physical copy to a doctor face to face, now you're led to uploading that file and him having to receive it and then having to look into it before he can say before he can give you an interpretation. So it does take a little time and it does take a little getting used to, but you are correct. It is the same way. You would select a doctor that you're comfortable talking with or talking to. You wouldn't just select any other doctor out there.
Like I was saying in the beginning, guys, this pandemic is not a restart button. It's an accelerant. And we were supposed to do this anyway, even before the pandemic, right? I mean, like online, platforms for medicine, it's supposed to be happening anyway. This whole pandemic is just accelerating the process. I am sure, somebody once said that the future is already out there. It's not just widely distributed yet. And all of the things that we're talking about, even the experiential part of consulting a doctor, you can almost replicate it, right? With probably a virtual what do you call it?
Absolutely.
Virtual technology, right? And there are many gadgets that can actually measure your heartbeat, your pulse, right?
Right.
Are you integrating that, or are you is that part of the plan to integrate these health measuring gadgets that we can wear and just show the doctor exactly what my heartbeat is right now.
Right. Well, a lot of the devices right now allow for integration.
Mhm.
So when we release the app, probably by the end of the month or a lot earlier than that, it will not have integrations, but we will be selecting devices that we want to integrate with, whether they're smart watches, whether they're health bands. Those are the things that we do want to work with in the future, and those are one of the cool things that we can do with technology that is currently available to us right now. Right.
And one of the things that you need to see a doctor is the prescription, right? I mean, like sometimes that's the only reason why you go to a doctor, because you need a damn piece of paper with the wiris, the really bad penmanship
Right.
in that piece of paper with his name on it, and you get physically get that. Is there a way for the patient, especially if the patient is incapable of going to the clinic, to get a or digital prescription?
Yes. Absolutely, and that was like in the earlier part of the lockdown.
Okay.
The FDA basically released a memorandum or a
Okay.
circular that authorizes and allows pharmacies to honor e-prescriptions. Whether, as long as they are a prescription, you do have still the signature of the doctor. Whether you take a picture of it, send it as an email to the patients, and the patients having to just show it on their phones, that would just work equally as you know, fine as the paper version of it. So we do that. We do have that in CloudPX right now. What basically we do is the doctor sends out a prescription, and when the doctor saves that prescription, the patient on the other end through the CloudPX application can basically download that file. You know, it's not really a requirement to print it anymore. You just download the file on your phone and show the PDF to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy will be able to honor that prescription.
So
So there's no more coris anymore.
So let me just get this straight. So
Yeah.
the patient just uses his device, be it a laptop or a phone, and just like this conversation that we're having right now through Zoom, the doctor, the patient will have this sort of conversation, right? That's the way it works.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
you know, because there are so many things that you can find out, especially if it's an old patient. The doctor is already familiar with the condition of the patient, and you can actually see, you know, if you put your eyes close to the camera, I think you can see a little bit of symptoms of something, right? Or maybe does the doctor ask the patient to stick his, let's say, open his mouth and put his tongue in the camera? Is that one of the ways and means in which the doctor can get more information from the patient? Is that the way it works, or what? It's just purely conversation.
Yeah, so it really depends on the specialty. So
Okay.
right now, a lot of doctors, and I'm sure from other countries, especially the first world countries, they already have techniques wherein the patients can be educated during the call by the doctor to do self tests or self assessment. So there's also other applications wherein, like for the eye doctors, for example, wherein they ask the patient to download an app, and from that app, they are instructed to do certain movements or exercises, which enable the doctor to, you know, they're basically teaching the patient how to assess themselves, and from what they see or from what the patient says to the doctor when they give feedback, that basically guides them when making the impression or diagnosis. But once again, this technology is not perfect. There's a big limiting factor to it. So it's really just for medical concerns, wherein the patient does not have direct access or easy access to a healthcare professional, or the patient is far from the nearest medical facility. So uh, hopefully, with how the market is evolving, how technology is improving, hopefully the percentage of how each consults can further aid the doctors in making the best impression and treatment plans uh, will skyrocket, or as like you said, will accelerate because of the pandemic. So that's the
Does the
positive.
does the doctor need to be in the clinic to be able to consult you? Is it possible that, if he wants to stay busy at night, or if he wants to stay busy while in the other hospital, or maybe uh, he wants to do something at any time of the day, is it possible that a schedule will open up, let's say at 12 midnight, for example, and the doctor is open for business, so to speak?
Yes. So
Must he
you're
be in the
really,
clinic?
yeah,
Or
you're really
not
a
necessarily?
visionary. Yeah, that's really one of the best parts uh, of CloudMD that we receive from the doctors is that they can just be doing anything. They can be at home, they can be outside, and if ever a patient requests for an e-consult with them, uh, they automatically receive a text message or an email, and that's the time where they, okay, I'll have to log into my account and approve that request. So yeah, they don't have to be logged in all day waiting for a request, and that's one of the best parts about it.
The platform, obviously, for the doctors is a subscription base for CloudMD, right? For the patients, if I sign up for CloudPX, so that I can, I'll get all of these benefits like an e-consult, is it free for me to sign up?
Yes, definitely. It's free for you to sign up. Actually, it's also free for the doctors to sign up for their CloudMD accounts. So that's what we talked about earlier is that it's not a subscription-based platform currently. It's
Okay.
free. So yes, the platforms are completely free to
So
use.
obviously, of course, the doctor has their own professional fees, right? They have different rates per doctor, per specialty, and all that stuff. Um, what is the mode of payment? Can I pay digitally? And is the price the same as you would consult the doctor, in his clinic physically, versus the e-consult? Is it the same price?
Yeah, so it actually varies from doctor to doctor. We give that option to them. So we don't control the service fee on our platform. It's absolutely 100% controlled by the doctors. And yes, we have a variety of payment options wherein patients can opt to pay online through credit card, debit card, or e-wallets like GCash, PayMy as QR code. Patients can also pay through bank transfer or money remittance center. So yes, we have the most common available for the patient.
I'm curious, guys, how many people are using this? How many doctors are using this? And how many patients are actively using CloudMD and CloudPX? Because I don't know anybody, be it doctor or patient, at least here in Cebu that I know of, who is using it. Because I certainly want to no, experience the whole thing personally myself.
Yeah, so right now, a lot of the doctors have not yet applied the telemedicine module into their practice. So most of them are still using CloudMD for their clinic operations, for their physical clinic operations. Meaning to say, at any given time, if you visit the directory of CloudPX, there's about 200 plus doctors currently available because they also have the option to remove themselves from the directory for whatever reason that they want. Like they don't want to receive consult requests right now. So there's about an average of 200 plus doctors at any given time where that patient can choose from. And on average, right now, we have around 200 to 300 e-consults per day.
All over the Philippines.
Yes,
That's right.
nationwide.
Because this is a nationwide platform. Are
So
there
yes,
many doctors and patients who are using this here in Cebu?
yes. So primarily, our main user base are from Cebu, as
Okay.
it is our home court.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Interesting, very interesting. So, um, I hope to run into a doctor. Actually, I don't want to have to go to a doctor, but if I need to go see a doctor, I hope he's using CloudMD and CloudPX. Where do you go from here, guys? Obviously, the pandemic has accelerated the need for your platform. Where do you go from here? I know that perhaps in these next few months you'll see a spike in your traffic because of the sheer volume of people who need to get consultation but can't physically go there. But when things sort of start getting back to the so-called new normal, um, where are you taking CloudMD and CloudPX next?
Yeah, so our main mission actually, and ever since Rich and I started CloudMD, was to help as many Filipinos as possible. So just because of the pandemic, that has not changed. So one of our major initiatives is, of course, to continue to keep on improving CloudMD and CloudPX, uh, find new ways to make it sustainable, uh, so that we also want to find other ways wherein we can help support the patients and the doctors and help augment their livelihood. So one of the projects that we are doing currently, we are actually partnered with the Cebu province government, and we are in the process of still continuing to implement and support all of our LPs, their health centers, the district and provincial hospitals, wherein we uh, implemented CloudMD and CloudPX for them to use for free. And with that, we are also currently working with the DOH as one of their accredited telehealth partners. So that goal, the DOH's goal is to find and create legislation for telehealth in the short term and long term. And for them to do that, they are partnering with private entities such as ourselves to help and give them objective input and feedback from our users as a basis for them to form the legislation on telemedicine. So yes, we really want to expand
You
our
know,
reach.
I think out of all the things that we have, I think it's a cell phone that's probably most widely available to everyone, right? I'm sure the penetration for cell phones is reaching almost 100% or more than 100% because some people have more than one cell phone, right? Even poor people can afford cell phones now. So I guess this means that poor people can also have access to healthcare. Um, uh, it is possible for, let's say, the government to, let's say, give uh, a certain amount of free consultation to the poor, right? Just using their mobile devices. So the possibility for good with this platform is just infinite, right? We can have free e-consultation to everyone who has a cell phone, and I'm sure that's a lot of people that we can reach. But our biggest problem in this country, like the way this interview is not so clear, is the fucking internet, right? How do you sort of fix that? I mean, of course you can't, right? But is there a way for us to use less bandwidth? I don't know. I think that's our biggest hurdle that we have no control over, right?
Yeah, I think this is also a very good opportunity for our telco providers to really improve the range or the scale of their network, especially the towers.
Mhm.
So I've read and I've heard that yeah, the new normal, we really depended on our telco providers, right? So not
Yeah.
just in the medical field, but in all aspects of life, right? So let's just continue supporting them and really for them that they get to improve their services. They make it more accessible to everyone, especially in the far-flung areas. Because yeah, that's the new way of life.
Would you like to speak to that, Arnold, as well?
I think John Jay had everything covered. Basically, I did hear that there are like going to be more players as far as the in the telco space in the foreseeable future. So hopefully, when those telcos enter and be more competitive, these also drive the already existing telcos to step up their game and improve the services for both internet, maybe mobile and broadband as well. But you are right. There's really no way, at least as far as in our capacity, to address that issue. It really is all in the hands of the telcos at this point.
Actually, in some governments, it's actually the government who does it, because investing on infrastructure for the internet is not feasible for a private entity. I think it's got to be the government who will do that for us. But let's talk about that some other time, because that's a totally different subject.
Yeah, that's another,
All right.
that's another story, right?
I know that this is still in its infancy. CloudMD and CloudPX, it's still in its infancy. But I'm sure we can look up to other countries that have this sort of platform that it's being used and is already successful. Who do you guys look up to? You mentioned earlier, Arnold, the United States. What is their penetration level like? I mean, are there a lot of people using eConsult, and are there a lot of doctors using a platform like CloudMD?
Right, absolutely. Well, the United States started to launch these EMRs. At least they all sprouted around the time of the 90s. So imagine when we started back in 2015, there were very little players in the game as far as, in the local scene, right? But looking back at that time in the United States, it almost came to a point of saturation for EMRs. So there really wasn't
Sorry, what does EMR mean
anything
again?
new that the EMRs.
EMR means?
Yeah, EMRs are electronic medical records.
Okay, all right. So sorry for
basically a term for these types of platforms.
Okay.
So there are a lot basically, and a lot of the more successful ones are. I believe there was Dr. Chrono, there was one by GE, very big companies that also invested in the EMR space at a very early time. And they now stand to reap all the rewards. And kudos to them. But it's very hard for us to we want to copy 1:1 in verbatim, because the healthcare environment or the healthcare landscape in any other country isn't something that we can kind of pattern to what we have right now. The Philippines is a developing country, and although everyone wants to strive, and I want to think all the politicians want to give better healthcare to all the Filipinos, at this point it isn't that apparent. And so what we want for CloudMD is to grow in a way that helps Filipinos, right? And that services the not wanting anything that might encumber them and make it all, it just makes everything toxic. And it also came to a point in the States wherein, doctors were starting to basically send all these complaints, because now the government was very controlling of how they did their documentation. Although there is a certain regulation for that, we don't want to end up in that level of toxicity. And we want to be easy to use. Okay, we want to be user friendly, and at the same time be able to address all these issues for data privacy. That all leads, to better service to the Filipinos. That's really all we want to do for CloudMD.
In terms of record keeping, in terms of, let's say, financials, can the doctor issue, let's say, official receipts to the patient? How does it work? And are government agencies uh, receptive to the data churned out from CloudMD when you sort of have to deal with government agencies?
Right. Well, basically, we don't have regulation for that as of now. We do have doctors who manually issue receipts, but because the BIR doesn't really accept EMRs as of this point,
Okay.
we're not able to print out official receipts from the system itself.
Okay.
So they'll definitely have to do it manually at this time.
But the prescriptions can now be shown to the pharmacist digitally. But it is
That's
just
correct.
it is just a scan or a photographed version of the prescription, right? That you show.
Absolutely, yes. As long as you have the doctor's signature and you have all the essential information on the prescription, whether it's a picture or a PDF, then they'll accept it, and they should be accepting it.
So what does the feature look like for CloudMD and CloudPX in terms of usage? Because it takes time for a person to get used to something that he's been used to doing for a long time. I mean, it took us years to get used to texting. I remember the telcos were giving it to us for free for years, right? And then we get stuck,
I remember too.
addicted to it, and then now we're a text savvy nation. Consulting using your phone, e-consulting looks like something that needs to cook a little bit longer than learning how to text. So how do you see the future is like for CloudMD and CloudPX in terms of penetration, in terms of use, a percentage of use versus the population in general?
Yeah, so I think I can take that one, Rich. E-consults right now is because of the pandemic. There's a forced shift in psychology and in behavior for both the patients and the doctors because it's a needed one. So yeah, yes, we expect the e-consults to spike, but uh, our mission for CloudMD and CloudPX is not to specifically dwell on that aspect of healthcare alone. We want it to be a holistic one. So regardless if there's a pandemic or not, regardless if there's e-consults or not, a lot of people are using it or not, our main mission still stands that we really want to help as many Filipinos as possible. And yes, we have a strategy and a roadmap for that, which maybe Jiggy we can discuss on our next interview. Yeah. So
You
yeah,
mentioned
I think
you mentioned mental health. Can a psychologist or psychiatrist also sign up for CloudMD, and can patients also consult a psychiatrist or a psychologist?
yes, that's correct. So there's been a spike in the number of psychiatrists on CloudMD, and yeah, it's very timely because we also know for a fact that aside from the physical damage that the pandemic has caused a lot of us, there's also the psychological damage. So people losing jobs, people losing family, God bless their soul. Yes, it's very timely that e-consults are there because yes, patients can talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist
You know,
using our platform.
also one of my biggest gripes in the educational system here in the Philippines is this: there's not enough psychiatrists and psychologists in schools, right? Is it possible for uh, a corporate or an institution to some sort of subscribe to your service and have a wholesale access to psychiatrists available for all their students, for example, or for all their employees, for example? So anytime they want to consult a psychiatrist or a psychologist, they can just use their phone, and then they can have a psychiatrist consult them using their phones or visit them in their clinics.
Yeah, that's doable. That's possible, and currently, some of the corporations or companies have reached out to us asking if they could use our platform. So what we just basically tell all of them is that yes, you can, and it's for free. So there's really no need for us to have some sort of a partnership formally. You can just easily sign up for a free account, and you can choose the doctor that you can choose your doctor, and from there, uh, the consults will take place.
So the database, where is it residing? Is it residing in the hard drive of the doctor, or is it in the cloud? Thus the name CloudMD.
Yeah, it's cloud-based. So although we have on-premise solutions like the data is in a physical location, but I think with the trend right now, I think online is the way to go. So primarily, CloudMD is online and it is cloud-based.
So it's not available in the hard drive of the doctor. If something happens, you know, God forbid, the internet goes down, the doctor won't be able to access the data, right? Is that what will
Yeah,
happen?
yeah, that's a limitation that currently we cannot do anything about. But there are other solutions that we suggest to the doctors. Like for example, they can have redundancies. Like you can have two different internet connections. One is fiber, one is mobile data, so they can have backup. So that's that's the reality we are in right now. And if we do an offline version of CloudMD, then yeah, e-consults are not supported in that kind of setup.
So let me get this straight. If you consult, if you e-consult, um, the doctor, is he in you know, for example, there are like 20 patients lining up for his time, right? And out of the 20 patients, let's say five of them signed up for e-consult. So the queuing is for both physical queuing in the clinic itself and the e-consult. So it's possible for a doctor to have a mix of patients, CloudMD, CloudPX patients, and physical patients who use the platform but are physically there in the clinic. So it's possible for a mixed set of patients.
Yeah,
That's
a
correct.
doctor has flexibility. It's actually it's really up to the doctor on how they approve the consults, whether it's a physical consult or an e-consult. So it's the doctor's decision to set the date and time. So yeah, they have full control.
You know, one of the biggest advantages of being a follower and not a trailblazer is that you can learn a lot of things from the trailblazers. They've already made all the necessary mistakes possible. So, based on what you've observed there, especially you Arnold, who mentioned the United States, what are the things that you have learned that you hope will not happen here in the Philippines? Because obviously, the rules are relaxed now because of the pandemic. But I'm sure sooner or later, once you know, the government starts tinkering and figuring out what you guys are doing, they're probably going to start tightening up the rules again. So, what have you learned? What's the learnings, if you will, that you can impart to us that hopefully won't happen here in the Philippines?
Right. Well, for one, the United States, instead of having doctors see patients and provide patient care, you know, it came to a point wherein now doctors are suddenly being forced to be data entry people. So, so imagine having a doctor who went to school for a lot of years and whose goal was to take care of patients, to cure people, also now has an additional task to start typing in whatever data that was asked of them. And so a lot of doctors really protested as to, you know, now it's starting to get toxic. Now they're being forced to do things that really wasn't part of their Hippocratic oath. And so, you know, those are the things that we want to at least meet them halfway with. You know, we are in a very good position in the Philippines because we're one of the telemedicine partners of the DOH. We can work together in order to meet halfway, not be as restrictive as possible, because that's where the doctors start to get stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? But be able to relax some of those restrictions, so they meet doctors halfway, and at the same time you're not compromising patient care. So there are a lot of things. I could say it may be outdated as far, because I only started in the Philippines in 2015, and I worked for like 10 years in the US industry for EMRs. I'm not sure whether my information is current, but before I left, that was the case. And I believe from my contemporaries who are still working in the scene, that at least the government has started to listen to these doctors and started to make life a little easier for them, which should have been the case, in the beginning, right? So all I really want for this is at the same time we don't compromise patient care, and at the same time we get in a very healthy mix of things, in the middle of everything, wherein we're not forcing doctors to do what they're not primarily asked to do, and at the same time we're also guarding data privacy and the rights of the patient. So because we're really fast tracked by COVID-19, I feel like it's more than ever that these things need to be looked into carefully by the government, and they have started, so really that's all. A lot of the things that I want to remove is more towards the responsibilities that are burdening doctors in the States at this point.
How smart can this machine get? Like, for example, if the doctor encodes the data, is it possible for this machine, for this platform, to sort of read into that data that the doctor has inputted all through the years and crunch, come up with his own solution? I mean, I guess the bigger question is, how smart can this platform get? Are you using some sort of AI or some sort of interpreting the data technology in your system?
Right. Well, that's a good question, because it has already been in the States for probably a decade or so, when the system starts to learn with what particular diagnoses or what chief complaints the patient presents with, given a span of time and multiple iterations of that record. The system starts to learn
Exactly
what was the most common prescription prescribed, what were the lab requests commonly used. The thing is, it becomes a very slippery slope, because if you have that feature in, anyone can be a doctor.
What?
Can be a doctor, right? So there needs to be some sort of regulation there. It is very doable. And we do have some form of that in CloudMD right now. But the question is, just because you can, should you do it, right? So it becomes very ethical at this point.
What if, for example, the doctor has overprescribed something? For example, because he forgot. For example, does that show as an alarm? For example, hey, wait a minute, you've already prescribed that yesterday. Why are you prescribing this again? Is that possible for certain extremes that a doctor will be notified that, hey, you can't do that anymore?
Absolutely. So we have certain checks and safeguards in CloudMD that allow, that inform the doctor, hey, you already have this. You've already prescribed this medication. So we're very careful, especially in those areas for prescriptions, orders. We basically have the system look into previous entries in order to identify that these prescriptions are indeed duplicates, or it is deliberately inputted by the doctor and not erroneously done. Right.
You know, JJ, Arnold, I'm very excited about this project of yours. I'm sure this, you know, it has huge potential. CloudMD and CloudPX. I'm sure you guys are very busy these days with the pandemic, with this so-called low-touch economy that people will be rather consulting using their mobile devices and their cell phones rather than going to the clinics or going to the hospitals. Um, I know a lot of people. I haven't tried it yet, and a lot of people uh, also haven't tried it yet, or probably don't, didn't even consider trying it. What's your message to all the doctors out there, as well as the patients out there, about CloudMD and CloudPX? How can you convince them? Please convince them to use this platform or platforms. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my first message would be to pray and hope that they don't need to use CloudPX, because that would mean that there's something wrong. But in the event that they do need to, yeah, for us patients, we'd just like to invite everyone to try it out, and of course to give us feedback on how to improve it, because we're always wanting to improve our services and our systems in perpetuity, and it's free. So the other thing that we would like to also hope for is that uh, we are so thankful that the quality of care that our doctors using CloudMD have given to their patients have been outstanding. We have a lot of patient feedback, whether they thank their doctors or how they communicated with them, how they interacted with them. And that really, to be honest, is very good feedback, which really keeps us going on. It really inspires us that those are the kinds of feedback we receive. And to our dear doctors, we can say nothing else but to give them a lot of praise and thanks for taking care of us patients. Without them, all the other platforms out there are useless. So it's because of their uh, will and oath and dedication to help save lives that we are here. And CloudMD is just merely a tool to aid them in their mission. So yes,
How
we'd
about
like to
you,
thank them
Rich?
from the bottom of our
What's your message to all the doctors and all the patients out there?
To all the patients, if you feel that you guys are under the weather, you feel you're not operating, normally, basically you have CloudPX. I would encourage everyone to stay at home still, although we've relaxed the ECQ protocol. We've transitioned to a GCQ one. There's no cure out there, so I really encourage everyone to still stay at home. And start searching for doctors in CloudPX. Sign up; it's absolutely free. When you sign up, you log into your account, and then you go to the doctor's directory, search for the doctor you want, and basically book them. We're not really charging anything, just by booking doctors. So give it a swing. Feel free to use it. Again, it's absolutely free. For the doctor, like John Jay said, really, we really can't thank them enough for risking their lives on a day-to-day basis, catering to patients, giving them patient care, and make patients feel better. So kudos to them, and all my prayers are for you guys in the front lines. So
Thank you so much for doing what you do, guys. You guys are amazing, and thank you so much for spending time to talk about CloudMD and CloudPX. John J. Yuvallos, the president and CEO, and Rich Arnold Tuadles, their CEO. The company's name is Synapse, and of course, the platforms are CloudMD and CloudPX. If they want to access the platform, where should they go? Maybe you could answer that question, Arnold. What website should they visit?
Oh,
Hold
I
on, give me a
think
second. So if they want to find out more
Yeah,
about CloudMD and CloudPX, if they want to find out more about it, what website should they visit? And if it will be available now or soon on an app, and maybe you can tell me the release date, or if it's already available, maybe you can tell me where they can find and download the app. Go ahead, website and app.
Yes, so the app should be available by the end of the month on the App Store and the Play Store. But for now, they can simply visit cloudmd.com.ph. So again, cloudmd.com.ph, and from there, they can choose whether they're a doctor or a patient. And yeah, they can just go ahead and sign up for a free account.
One last question before I go. Can they
Sure.
consult a doctor that's not from Cebu, for example? If I want to consult a specialist of the heart in Manila, can I do that? Can I get a few minutes of his or her time to get a consultation?
Yes, definitely. But once again, it's really up to the doctor to approve or decline your request for whatever reason that they seem fit. But yes, it's happening right now. The geographical boundaries that we have, removed. Yes, that's
Wow.
possible.
So it's possible eventually for us to get access to the brains of let's say a Russian doctor, for example, here in the Philippines, right? Who is a specialist on whatever, right? Wow. I'm pretty excited, guys. I'm pumped. Maybe you can tell me what's going on with you guys. Give me some updates on what's going on with CloudMD and CloudPX. John J. Yuvallos, JJ Yuvallos, and Arnold Tuadles, the founders of CloudMD and CloudPX. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much, Jiggy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for watching Alive, my search for the best ways to live. Of course, our episode today is called The Future of Medical Consultation. Of course, this show Alive is brought to you by our good friends from Organic Acai. Stay healthy. Thank you, guys. You take care. Stay safe.
Thank you, Jiggy. Take care.
Okay, I'll just pause.